So, New Year's resolutions. Some people say, like, don't do them, they don't work, so why bother? Some people are really into them, some people do them, but then don't finish them, and then they feel bad about themselves. So the idea is not to create something where we feel worse about ourselves than we did before, but what I think happens is we get so excited, like this is a fresh slate, this is a new year, these are things I really want to accomplish, and so we write down these goals or these resolutions that are sometimes unachievable, and we don't do the work to kind of break them down. So let's talk about that. So I'm a huge believer in New Year's resolutions. I mean, I used to do insane amounts. I would have a book. Every page, like there would be like New Year's resolutions, life goals, work goals, health goals, fun goals, and then I'd have like 10 things on each category. And some of them weren't fully achievable, but they were just like dreams. By the end of the year, like I would attain some things off of each page, and that was super fun for me. And I didn't feel really bad about the ones that I didn't get because I got enough of them. You could start with your dreams, right? You can do that, and I like to break them down into categories like what are my health dreams? What would just be like some fun goals for the year? What would be family goals for the year? What would be like whatever work goals or money goals for the year? If you really want them to be attainable, you can't really stop there, because then you have to you have to go through them and like, is this achievable? And it might be like, yeah, but I'd have to kind of be a different human being to make that achievable. Like run a marathon. Could I do it? Maybe, yeah, but it wouldn't be who I'd want to be, right? So go through them, and if they're really important to you, make sure that they're really achievable. And sometimes we can take a dream or this big goal, like let's say it's run a marathon. And obviously people do, like they go from not running at all to running a marathon. But there's a lot of stuff in between, so you start small. So like if you really wanted to run a marathon, then like check out the Couch to 5K. And if you can do that and you build yourself up, then there's programs to get you from here to there and then there to there. But you can't like begin with running a marathon. You want to make sure that the goals, you're emotionally invested in them, like you're excited about them, you want to do them, but that's not enough, unfortunately. I wish it was. If there was enough, we would all attain all of our goals, right? But you do have to be emotionally invested in them, but then you have to figure out how to make them attainable for you. And a lot of times that's like breaking them down. And maybe starting with a few smaller ones that are super attainable, because when you reach a goal, it feels so good that it makes us want to reach other goals, right? So sometimes it's just like building blocks. So I always make some like not super simple, but simple goals to attain so that I feel good. And it doesn't mean like I have to make a little extra effort, but I know that it's pretty easy. Like I can attain them and it'll make a difference in my life. Maybe a little bit, right? But I'll feel better because I know how to attain goals. So like having some of those in there, super helpful. And then if there's one that just like you're desperate to make it happen, but you've never done it before and it like comes on your list every year and you're like, this is the year, but no other year has it happened, then you need to like look at that goal. I am really a believer in making goals happen, even if they're way out there. But we have to have the tools to make it happen. So looking at that goal, super unattainable, how do we make it attainable? How do we break it down? So let's say it's to get really fit, right? Like really get in shape. And before in the past, we've gotten a gym membership, and in January we've gone, and then we go less and less, and then we're like, oh, screw it. I hate working out. It's never gonna happen, whatever, right? So if we know that about ourselves, like there's different ways to be in really good shape and to be healthy, right? So you figure out what's not worked for you in the past. Like maybe a gym membership is not your thing, and that is okay. Or maybe if you go to the gym, like what's enjoyable? A podcast that you love, or watching the TV, setting yourself up in a way that's like fun. There has to be some fun in it for you, right? For us to keep going. But the idea is taking this thing that you really want, because if you really want it, I want you to have it. But then we got to break it down. How do we, instead of going here, how do we go from here to here? Because once you're here, then you can go to here. Then you can go to here. And eventually you get to there. You just can't go from here to here all at once. It's just too hard. And this matters. Like, that matters. It's just like a writer. Like, I want to write a book this year, right? So you set up this thing that's unattainable. I'm going to write an hour a day. Maybe for a week you could do that, but life gets in the way. A lot of people can't write an hour a day. Like, that's just not attainable. But then if you're like, I'm just going to write at least 10 minutes a day, maybe more, maybe some days I can do an hour, but maybe there's some days I can only do 10 minutes, but everybody can do 10 minutes, right? Even if you're exhausted, you could set a timer for 10 minutes and you can write. So there's different ways of breaking down our goals. And if you do 10 minutes a day for 365 days, or even like maybe you get sick, so 300 days for the year, you do 10 minutes, you're gonna get way closer to your book, or you might even finish your book, than saying, I'm gonna do an hour a day. And then you lose patience for yourself and you give up. So the idea is we don't want you to give up. So we have to make things attainable so you keep going. We screw up. We're human, right? So we might make a New Year's resolution that we just can't do, all right? Or we decide no sweets for the year. And then we have sweets in February, whatever. So we've got to prepare for what if we screw up? Because we're probably gonna, right? So, which is okay, right? If we have a plan for screwing up, then we don't get derailed. So my New Year's resolution this year, one of them is to give up alcohol for the whole year. I'm already regretting it. It's like week 1, but I'm gonna do it. Will I screw up? It's quite possible, right? So I have to have a plan. Let's say I have a glass of wine in April, and I'm like, oh my God, I made it 4 months, and then I had a glass of wine. Well, forget it. All right, fine, then I'm not gonna do it and I'll have alcohol, right? So, and again, I'm not an alcoholic, so this is not about that. But there's a good chance I'm gonna screw up because I'm human. So I need to have a plan in place of what I'm gonna do when I screw up. So I'm gonna come up with this plan right now, right here for you guys. So the thing is, one of the things I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be honest about it. So I'm gonna do a short that will tell you when I screw up. And one of the reasons I'm doing that too, something else we'll talk about, is now I'm beholden to you guys. So that gives me more support. And I go for that glass of wine, I'm like, oh God, if I have it, I gotta tell the whole world that I had it. Okay, not worth it. So that's gonna help me. I'm still gonna maybe screw up. So one of the things I am gonna do is I'm gonna tell you guys, and then I'm going to talk about how I'm gonna restart. I don't want that one drink or whatever I end up doing to derail my 4 months of really doing it, and 12 months where I have 364 days or 360 days where I do it is going to make a huge difference on my health than giving up right away. So the idea too is not to beat yourself up. Shoot, shouldn't have done it. I am not a terrible person. I screwed up. I'm human. What can I do now? What's the next step to get me back on track? I'm going to tell you all that I did it, and I'm going to ask for your support. Write in. Please give me a little support so I can get back on track with my goal, and then get back up. And the next day, don't have any, right? The same with I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week, and then 1 week, you miss a day and then you give up, right? Or you get sick and then you're off for 2 weeks and you're like, well, I don't want to go back. Stuff like that's going to happen. So you have to be prepared with how you're going to deal with it. So the plan is already in place. So when you screw up, something happens, life gets in the way, there's a plan and you don't get derailed. What's gonna happen, and I see this happen a lot with my students, someone will come up with something really good, but harder to attain. And what happens is they do it for a while, and their brain convinces them that it's not really what they wanted in the first place, and they think they're gonna come up with a new goal instead. What the brain is doing is I don't wanna do this anymore, it's too hard. And it convinces you that it's not what you really wanted in the first place. If you're making it a goal in the first place, it's something that you want, right? Generally. So I would not give in to that little voice, because our brains like to be comfortable. Our brains like to take it easy. Our brains don't want to have to work really hard. And so they fight us on stuff. They fight us when we're learning stuff at first, like there's that process and then it gets easier. But our brains will fight us on this when we're going through a rough patch. And knowing that, and knowing that your brain's going to try and convince you that you don't really want to lose weight. You thought you did, but you know what? You don't really. Or I didn't really want to run, I just wanted to walk, whatever it is. So that's why, like, think hard about what your goals are and what you really want, but don't let your brain change it. Now, there's always a caveat to that. Maybe you've come up with something that's really unattainable and is becoming unhealthy. Hopefully you've done your work setting yourself up with a really healthy, attainable goal. Your brain thinks it's protecting you, so it's this self-preservation of like, this is too hard, don't do it, right? But the deeper message is yes, it's hard, but it will be so worth it if you can push past the hard part. I love New Year's resolutions. I love setting up goals. I love giving life a purpose for the year, but it's not easy. It can be fun. If you've got a New Year's resolution, whether it's hard or whether it's easy, like, put it in the comment, because we will support you. Like, if you put your resolution in there, I'm gonna check in with you. Like, we will support you. We wanna be a community that helps everybody out. And I'm gonna be checking in with you. I'm gonna need support for some of mine as well.